you're going to want to stick with us and learn all about New Hope, which is a really fine institution, primarily based in South Dade, but with outreach programs all over. Please welcome Harris Kaplan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me today.
So, Harris, tell us a little bit about, we can start about New Hope, what it does, and your involvement with New Hope.
Yeah, so, I want to start by just sharing the mission of New Hope and then going into our founder a little bit, because I feel like it's important to lay the foundation of what New Hope does. So New Hope's mission is to assist individuals with substance use and mental health disorders re-enter society using a faith and evidence-based approach to treatment. And so this organization was founded by Manuel Alvarez, whose story sort of reflects a life of perseverance and redemption. He is an individual who struggled with addiction throughout his life. He's been incarcerated. And when he, left his prisons and came back into society, he continued his education and behavioral treatment. He volunteered with Agape Family Ministries, and sort of realized that approach to treatment was best when there was an equal parts to faith and that the clinical side to that treatment. To addiction. And so he worked with Reverend Jose Hernandez to establish Agape's treatment program, and later went on to create New Hope in 1993, where he established these outpatient programs to assist individuals who have substance use disorders. And
let me interrupt you for a second. I want to make sure that our viewers understand. This is a man that had substance abuse problems. He went to prison.
Yes.
He got out, and then he's created this service to the community.
Yes, he got out, continued his education in this field, gave back to the community first before, establishing a more structured program to help these individuals.
So when there's somebody right now that's out there and they think they're at their lowest point ever, they do need hope. And that there's something at the end of this particular part of their lives, something that's improvement. Is a perfect example of somebody not only who redeemed himself, but has brought that faith and that redemption to so many other people.
Right. I mean, that hope is so important. And we at New Hope share this with our clients, the compassion and the dignity to never give up, because it is never too late to turn your life around and, become part of society. So let's talk about the services that you have and how somebody could wind up or access that or find some journey, some way to get the services that are offered by New Hope. Yeah, so New Hope really does offer a continuum of care where it doesn't matter where you're from or where you are in life, whether you're homeless or indigent or just have substance use or mental health disorders. New Hope will work with you to provide you with the treatment to stabilize and live independently. And there are such programs like our residential inpatient treatment program that treats clients with substance use and mental health disorders. We also have an outpatient program. As they graduate from the inpatient program, they can continue on to receive outpatient services. And then we have such programs to identify these people who maybe need help through our specialized street outreach programs out throughout Miami-Dade County. We have an outreach team who goes out and identifies individuals through the homeless report system to engage them and help them get off the street, whether to our treatment program or into an emergency shelter.
So most of the time what people are exposed to is people that are out on the street, that are at the street corner. And so that's most of our exposure.
Well,
to that.
It is most of our exposure, as a community. But I will say that a lot of our people who come into our programs come from referral sources like hospitals, like jails. They get referred to us because they're already engaged in other types of systems. And instead of getting returned back to the streets where they came from, they get referred to us so that they can continue their treatment and, changing sort of their habits.
When you look at people that are having, without regard to their financial status or their housing status, if they're in a facility, a hospital for a medical issue, and you go, so the nurse, whoever's got them in a cart, in a wheelchair, okay, see you later. It's like, who's going to take care of these people? And for the people that have folks that are going to take care of them, what we want people to think about is, what about these folks that don't have that kind of support? And so from what I understand, in the hospital, they don't just want to release them out into the wild like they're a bird and they're just going to fly away. So if some of these folks wind up in the hospital, somebody's going to sit down with them, a social worker type of person, and to be able to help them figure out what their next step is. Tell us about the trauma that's involved for the person that's out on the street to wind up getting into a facility like yours, or that they go from a hospital to a facility like yours. For the most part, what do they go through?
Yeah, so, there's many different reasons why someone may end up in the hospital or in one of our treatment programs. But usually, it is through, them experiencing a very low point in their life, whether they get involved in the criminal system, or they find or get admitted into a hospital where they overdosed or something that they couldn't take care of themselves in the street. And so instead of getting returned back to the environment that led to them getting in this kind of situation, they get referred to New Hope or another type of program that allows them to continue that sort of initial treatment or identification of what it is that got them into that situation in the first place, so that they don't end up back into that original environment that is, not ideal, we'll say.
So often when we go to the street corners, we see people all sorts of ages and out there, and this heat that's out there, and they're out there for hours. You got to know they're dehydrated. They haven't eaten in a while. They seem to be unsheltered. Maybe they're not. Some people condemn me because I give them money. They're just going to go do this and this. I said, you cannot not argue that they're on the street corner. And I might have mentioned to you a while back, I was at Palmetto Expressway on 103rd Street as I was turning to go west. There was a man, a woman, and a 5-year-old baby. And the baby's laying in the grass. Couldn't be 10 feet from my front left wheel. What trauma that family's going to. And people say, how could you do that? I said, because they got to feed this baby that's right there. And so everybody tries to do their best with what they can. And what I urge people to do, make a donation to a place that works for you. And whether it's your organization, or they can go online and find their favorite one, because there's so much money in Miami-Dade County now. And when people donate money, whether it's $10 or $100 or $1,000, or nowadays many millions of dollars are being allocated, it's well spent. And one of your jobs, it's called the developmental director, but you help raise money to keep these services. Tell us what that's like for you, and how you make a presentation to the people that are wealthy that can make big donations.
Yeah, well, our work is so important. We are helping thousands of people every year. in very difficult situations, whether it's with their substance use addictions or their mental health disorders or being homeless in the street. These are all programs that we have that are helping these individuals change their situation and trying to get back on track. And we do receive a lot of funding from various agencies and organizations, but it's never enough, and we can always do more to help these people. Currently at our residential treatment center, there is a constant wait list for individuals to enter the program. And there's a wait list because we get referrals from all different sources, including the hospitals, the jails, the community. We have people who know of New Hope who come in from referrals from their family. And this constant wait list creates a recidivism or a continuing use of high cost resources, where there's a constant cycle of these individuals going back into the criminal system or going back into the emergency rooms because they can't get the treatment that they need. And so, with the support of the community, we can create more opportunities for people to have access to our programs through the construction of a new residential treatment facility.
So you have the what do you call it, in-house treatment?
Yes, it's a residential treatment. Yeah, because they live there. The program is a minimum of a 90-day program where they live there for 90 days and get 24/7 treatment.
And what's the next step for them?
Usually, the next step would be transitioning to our outpatient program, where they can continue to work with their case manager. They'll get assigned a new outpatient therapist and a peer to continue with their treatment program. And so it'll be a sort of a natural transition from living, in this inpatient program where they're getting constant supervision and what's the word, engagement, into a more out, in the outpatient where they're living independently and using everything that they've learned to live in on their own.
So the after the crisis, if you will, right? There's this long-term or this care that is that you must have, all right? And I'm sure some folks go, no, I just need that. Well, it'd be like, I went to the gym, I got fit, so I never have to go back again. I think it's a perfect example. There's a facility, I think it's I'm trying to describe it. It's a 12-step program just down the street from here. And the other night I was leaving, there were at least 85 cars that were there. I don't know if that's a regular night or whether it was a medallion night where people get recognized for their sobriety, if you will. But when I'm realizing, they do over 100 meetings a month. This mental drug abuse where you're trying to get better, this is a significant challenge for the people of Miami-Dade County, especially for the ones that are unaware of it, because it's their family or next door or their classmate. If you could, if there's some statistics that you could share with us so people understand that what the work that you do is pretty darn important, because when they get better, they get to be productive, and and if they don't recover, it's a burden, if you will, an expense for all of us. So if you have any numbers as far as what Miami-Dade County is doing to try to help these people, would you share that with us?
Yeah, so you're really putting me on the spot here.
Yes.
I don't have any numbers with me, but I will say that there is a high need for treatment to these individuals Right down the street there is that program. It's actually the New Hope Recovery Center.
I thought
with
so,
the
but
Unity Hall.
it's like I've heard that name for the last couple of years.
And they do host 12-step programs and all sorts of recovery programs. And I think the fact there that you mentioned, that you touched on, is that everybody knows somebody who has been touched with substance use or addiction, or mental health. And so, I would ask people to be aware of the people around you, because you don't know what they're going through. And that if you do need help, to reach out to an organization like New Hope or any other organization that can work with the individual to help them.
I think we have their website. And if it's not up, it'll be up in just a moment. So I must share with you, when I was in school, I said, okay, I'm going to stop smoking pot. That's it. When I decided when I was on vacation, it was a few years ago. And I came back and I went right back in the same environment. And we had a table much like this. And we'd all sit around and smoke. I said, you know what? I'm going to tell them I got a cold. There was a group. That worked for about a week. Finally, they said, I guess you're not smoking. I said, no, I'm not. I'm done. That was so hard for me to do it, because it just wasn't the drugs. It was that whole relationship that's there. And so tell us about that process, what some of your clients go through to say, I can't hang out there anymore because that's where I became worse instead of better. What are some of the things that people would say to you about how to say goodbye, if you will?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it starts with a choice. It's the choice to change your environment, change your habits. And addiction is just that. It is a physiological habit that you have to change. So you have to rework, the wiring in your mind, in your body. And there we have a team of case managers and therapists and a strong support system of peers who works with the individual to change those habits and that environment. Depending on what your situation is, there are different lengths as to what it is that you may have to do, but the idea is that we would work with you to change what it is. Are those triggering sort of ideas that want you to go back to what it was that you were using before, or caused you to act out in those ways?
If you were going to describe your, I know there's no average, but male, female, the age, can you describe some of that for us?
Yeah, well, it's not really, one population over another. There are a large number of individuals, men, women, excuse me, adults, even kids. I will say at New Hope, our residential program is for adult men, but all of our other services, whether it's street outreach, our outpatient treatment program, our hospital bridge program, as we engage individuals in the hospitals before they get discharged and go back into society, we engage all individuals, adults, men and women.
So we know that education for the kids is pretty darn important. And years ago, there was Nancy Reagan, a long time ago, just say no. There was a system throughout at least there are schools here, maybe it was throughout the country. And we realize how important that is. So when it's foisted upon them, they can make a decision which way to go. The clients that are in your facilities, whether it's outpatient or inpatient, tell us the type of drugs, if you know them by name, so people can understand what's out there.
Yeah, I think it's all of the same sort of drugs that have been in the community for years and decades now. we have individuals who come in with alcohol addiction, use of marijuana, opioids.
So it's pretty broad spectrum, and it's essentially what I'm hearing. What's available, that's what they want to do. So when you mentioned that when you find out some people are out on the street corner, you find out from a lot of ways, including when you have your outreach program. When the folks go out to talk to them, aren't they like really concerned? Like, if I go with these guys, where am I going? Do they? And I'm sure that has to happen. But how do you get those clients to say, or prospective clients to come in and get treatment? How is it they get comfortable enough to say, all right, I'm going to go look. I'm going to go down there. What is it that happens to where they begin to trust?
Yeah, it's working with individuals, and as a fundraiser, I can relate a lot to that because every individual is different, and there's no sort of template as to how to engage someone to get them into treatment, but it's continuing to engage them, work with them, building that trust with the individual that what it is that we are offering, the help that they need, is something that they actually want. And then at the end of the day, they have to be the ones to make that choice and accept it. A lot of the people that we work with are uninsured, indigent individual, chronically homeless. And so, they don't have a lot of, other things go, where they can, maybe make this choice, to accept the help or not.
So if I hear you right, if somebody is homeless and no shoes and no shirt and their only possession is that grocery cart and what's in it, they can still get help.
Absolutely. Right. And you'd be surprised the amount of stuff that a homeless person could have, even if they have 5 huge shopping carts worth of stuff, they can get help too.
And so often people say, why do they carry that? It's because that's their thing. That's their condo. That's everything. I say, can you just imagine them walking around not leaning on anything, but they have something. And we know so often they have to give up that something to start brand new. So you really do wonderful work there. We hear lots of good things about New Hope and throughout Miami-Dade County, there are dozens of great non-for-profits that do work like this and other work. Glad to see that there's an emergency number. Somebody's having a crisis. Do you happen to remember the number?
So they can reach out to our main telephone line at 786-243-1003, and they will talk with a representative who can connect you with the help that you need.
Good. And so often, and appropriately so, do you when somebody's having an emotional crisis, like there was a woman not too long during COVID, she threw her baby into the canal. The baby had autism. Somebody saw the baby in the water, jumped in, saved the baby, gave it back to the mother. 2 blocks later, the mother did the same thing. So the baby died, and the mother, was obviously having a crisis.
Yeah, that's very tough.
Yeah, very tough. And so it's important for all of us to be, diligent for the people that about. Are they going through a crisis, and be able to get them to a place that can help. We know the county finally funded the mental health facility. I forget the name of it. Of the counties, someone is either received. Was that you guys?
No.
But they got a contract to be able to help. It's 80 beds or small enough, but it says really that the county's like paying more attention, and that's really what we want the county to do.
Okay, are you talking about the Hideaway Bay, the hotel down in Cutler Bay that was converted into?
No, but we could. Okay, let's talk about that. It's in your neighborhood. Ron Book was involved with that. The town of Cutler Bay was fighting that thing like for crazy. All right, they didn't want it there, but something was worked out. Tell us about the type of patients, clients that go into that facility.
Yeah, so Hideaway Bay was formerly a La Quinta hotel in Cutler Bay that was purchased by the Homeless Trust of Miami-Dade County, and through a rigorous process, New Hope was selected to manage that property.
There you go.
Yep, where we provide the management for the individuals who move in as a permanent residence to Hideaway Bay. These are individuals who are seniors, age 55 and above, who were chronically homeless. That means that they were homeless for a significant part of at least 5 years. And now they moved into Hideaway Bay, where they live and have access to all the normal environments that an individual would have.
That's right right on Caribbean, right before US 1 on the north side. And congratulations to the county and to the Homeless Trust and for New Hope for being able to, to do that. And a great use of that. I'm glad there's some things that are down south. Pretty soon it won't be so far down south. It'll be more of the middle of that. Do you have any other work that's being done to provide more services in the South Dayton Homestead area?
Yeah, so I just want to highlight two of our newer programs. One I think I mentioned briefly, but that is our Hospital Bridge program, where we work with a lot of the hospitals and universities in Miami-Dade County to engage the patient before they are discharged. So normally where they would get a referral to us, we are now starting to work with that individual in the hospital system so that they don't return back to that environment where they that led them to the situation in the first place, and we can get them to an area that can continue their treatment or into a shelter so that they don't have to return to the street. And the other program is our PATH program, which is a project for transition from homelessness project for the assistance in transition from homelessness, where we work with individuals to provide them with direct housing for serious mental illness individuals.
And this all started years ago by somebody that was in prison for whatever his crimes were. How long ago?
It started that way, and over several years now, especially in recent years, we've continued to expand these programs because we are seen as a leader in the behavioral health industry. We continue to receive these contracts to expand our programs and continue offering help throughout to individuals throughout Miami-Dade County.
That's wonderful. And I know you've been waiting for this, but each of us have had people in their lives that have helped them get wherever they are. And this is your opportunity, if you'd like to thank them. All right, there's a camera right over there. And then if you want to mention by name, great. If they're alive, great. If they're not, go for it.
Thank you. Well, I just do want to thank my family for always being the support system that have led me to where I am today, as well as my mentors throughout my professional career. And of course, everyone at New Hope who has supported me in this new role and working together to help all these and support these individuals throughout Miami-Dade. I just want to say thank you.
Wonderful. And we're going to wrap it up here. Let's look at this camera right over here. The tall one and the short one. Which one? The short one. Folks, first of all, Harris, thank you very much for being here. Second, my brother Grant and I subscribe to the Disney rule, which is when you hug someone, don't stop until they do.